Hey, everybody. Welcome to season 2, episode 1 of the Trauma and Friends podcast. We want to thank everybody who listened to season 1, who has shared it. I don't have the updated numbers, but I do know we have been listened to in 75% of the states of the United States in about 6 countries right now. So we're being downloaded almost every day. We just had someone in England download us the other day. So that's just the podcast downloads. That's not including our YouTube, TikTok, Instagram shorts, all that good stuff. And with season 2, we're going to be doing a lot more short content in between episodes to try to keep this momentum going. So expect some different posts, little blurbs from Jess and myself. We might have a little blurb from a couple other people who want to tell a quick story of their own. And we'll be including that in the content we have for this season. So expect a little bit more of a flow, a little bit more information now that we've kind of gotten the ball rolling and we know how this works. So yeah, we're going to do probably about 5 episodes a season, maybe a little more depending on that, plus that short content. So thanks to everybody who's motivated us, who's listened, who's asked questions, who's commented on things, because there's been some really great comments across all platforms, telling your own stories. Even people who left the group long before it really imploded have come back and told us some different things. So that's been really awesome. So thanks to everybody for that. Today we're going to be talking about who did what, essentially, and we're going to get into some more nitty-gritty of certain things, more of the insane stories of certain things. And today we have Kelly and Ashley who are going to tell their stories, and I want to turn it over to Jess to kind of get us started and going here. So
Yeah. Thank you, everybody, again, as Persephone said, for listening. Thank you for joining us today. And this is going to be probably a bit more of a WTF episode, because you're going to hear some stuff that is quite shocking, especially when it's all aired out. So unfortunately, some of it might not be believable, but we can promise, as those who have experienced it, it did happen. And there are people out there who are even more, I'll say, victims of these crimes than we are immediately. And in the future, if you are one of those people, we are very sorry for everything that has happened to you. And we hope that you found some justice or something along those lines, even if it's in 10, 15, 20 years. Without any further posturing, both of you, thank you for joining us. And I'm not sure who would like to go first here, but introduce yourselves and let us know on how you got here.
I can go. So this is gonna blow your mind, and several people in the group. But my name's actually Kaylee.
We're so sorry, Kaylee.
Yeah, Kaylee. So nobody really would know that unless they met me in person. So my name's Kaylee. I got involved in the group from E's box exchange group that we talked about on Facebook, like exchange. I loved fandoms. I thought it was a really cool, unique idea, and I wanted to do something special for myself. So I got involved in like getting the subscription box. And then I was added on day 1 of the creation of the group. So I've been there since the beginning, and seen all the ups and downs. Started to remove myself there towards the end once I figured out some things were happening on my own. And then I was just going to let things go by the wayside until other people started reaching out. And that's when I realized, okay, I'm not making this up. Something's happening and it doesn't feel right.
Yeah, I'm Ashley. My story's kind of similar. I also was in the subscription box group, and then ended up joining on day 1 of the side group, I guess, and just sort of watched everything. I got very, very close with a lot of people, and then I was added to the other side groups, and just kind of everything was very slow rolling. So it's really hard to believe that it got to the point that it did.
Yeah, I think that was the shocking thing for all of us because it was so slow. Before, it was not an immediate thing at all. And that's why I think we've stressed in a few episodes like this was over the course of years. This was years of time. This was not weeks or months. This is the frog in the very slow boiling pot. It was not a quick process at all. Not at all. And Kaylee, sorry, I've never heard your name actually said out loud before, even though I've talked to you online for years. So my apologies on that end too. Um, but the things I think we wanted to really focus on today were the stuff that people are going to struggle the most to believe, because some of these stories are pretty insane, just for lack of a better word, because they are. And when I've personally told, in real life family and friends, they look at me like, are you kidding? Like that happened? Like the ruining children's credit, which I do want to talk about today, just these things that most normal people wouldn't think to do or wouldn't think that people do in general. So whoever
Yeah.
wants to go first, which is the craziest thing that you feel happened in your experience in the group?
So for me, I did not get involved in M's side group. I wasn't part of the waffles. I had always been closer to E. So the craziest thing, though, for me is attending M's wedding and essentially became their decorating crew. So a handful of us showed up and decorated the entire venue and basically were the planners of that day and set everything up completely for that wedding, just to hang out with them. So I'm one of the rare people that's met all three and like the whole family. So that was just crazy to me that like I drove because I live very close to them. But some people flew in for this event just to be able to attend the wedding.
Which is
And
wild,
they're
especially.
divorced now.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Which is wild if you think about it in like almost in a global sense. It's as if, not that I should be equating this to them, but it's as if you had the ability to go help your favorite celebrity with things
Yeah.
to some degree.
Yeah,
And
it felt like that.
yeah, which is a completely wild thing.
Yeah.
I find
I
it wild that they even assumed people would do that.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Like assumed they would decorate a wedding. Like that's kind of that's usually like what you have your family or like your day of coordinator figure out, like you don't have people you've met on the internet that
Go
you
out of their way.
never met in person.
Yeah.
Okay.
I
Like
Sure.
if you got a message off of one of your favorite celebrities saying,
Yeah.
"Hey, want to come help me
yeah.
decorate my wedding?" You'd be like, "Spam. This is
I
spam."
I think that's a really kind of good segue too into how this whole thing kind of was allowed to perspire. Like they were like celebrities to us. They were these
Yeah.
it's very special people. Like they were our version of a celebrity. A lot of us are, well, all of us honestly are all very nerdy. We came from this fandom subscription box, and something that I found with nerdy people is that we are very empathetic. We're very innocent in a sense, I guess, in that regard. Like we trust people, and to us they were celebrities, and we were so happy to just be a part of their life, honestly, and it just made it really easy for them to be manipulative.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. That's a really good point.
Hmm. Well, and we respected them because they were doing stuff that we wish we could do, and then of course they started making deals with like Hot Topic and stuff that was legitimate that a lot of us would who had small businesses, that's going to be an episode separately, is who had small businesses in the group and who suffered as a result of these individuals, because I know a lot of people's businesses did suffer. But a lot of people were really trying to make it work, and here they were getting legit contracts and stuff like that. They had attempted to appear on American Idol, which is still one of my favorite videos to watch of all time when I'm feeling bad about the situation, and I have played it for groups of friends before. They tried to have a reality show after that, and they really were people that were trying to be famous and
Mhm.
trying to do that. So the celebrity label, especially this is pre like influencer culture,
Mhm.
like influencer culture started coming out towards the end of this. I think that makes a huge difference because they were kind of like that, this were like the forefront of that influencer culture because of what they were
Mhm.
doing, like
Yeah.
TikTok really wasn't a thing so much yet. Like that came towards the end of the whole situation anyway, because I know they have TikToks, but they're not super active from what I've personally seen. Um,
And they
but yeah,
tried to
like
use that label as
yeah.
well, and
Mhm.
influencer with um also luring people in to purchase what they wanted.
Yeah. They went well, and they tried to do the influencer boxes, and we
Yeah,
only got what, like a couple of those
if any.
after. Yeah, like I think I got two,
Yeah.
um, and then that was it. And because they were trying to push that, but that was at the very end too. That was like when the company was starting to not do so great, and they were trying to promote. Ashley, how about you? Was there a certain thing that you feel was like the most strange, odd, freaky?
Wild.
Oh my gosh, there's so much, honestly. How much time do we have? Um, like I think for me it was just it was just the culmination of so much of it, but it's like the laundry list of things that happened to them, supposedly. They one of
Hmm.
them ended up with pink eye and had to wear an eye patch, and one of them had COVID but didn't have insurance, and there was, they were using their kid for fraud basically, and it's just there was just so many things. I think the thing that sticks with me the most is probably not the biggest thing to a lot of people, but I love animals. And so I remember a story where had ended up having to rehome her senior Saint Bernard because he supposedly pushed one of the kids down the stairs. And she's like, I've never rehomed a senior dog. And for me, it felt so gross, I guess. Like, if you can't take care of the dog, just admit that, but don't try to make everybody tug at your heartstrings and then rehome this senior dog that's only ever known you. Like, that just never sat right with me.
Hmm.
Well, and I'm gonna be that guy a bit. A massive dog like that, and a toddler on a small staircase.
Right.
You're not exactly looking like
Yeah.
stuff's gonna happen,
Yeah.
unfortunately. Like, it's not the dog's fault for being the dog's
Exactly.
size, and it's not the fault for being a kid. Um, so I don't really think you should punish either one of them for that stuff. I think it's something that you adjust. You talk to the kid and you say,
Get a
hey,
baby gate.
Maybe put
yeah,
a baby
Just
gate.
get a baby gate.
Yeah.
yeah,
Dog's not
something
allowed
like
upstairs.
there are ways.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, there are ways to figure it out. And one of those things, one of those things is not necessarily rehoming unless you desperately need to. And that situation didn't really personally warrant that in my mind either.
I don't think
Well,
it truly was that. I think she couldn't afford to take care of the dog.
yeah.
Yeah,
Uh,
Well, the
and just
unvaccinated
I
straight
would
cat
pulling
agree.
off
kind of
of
shows
that.
that.
Yes,
yeah,
that's what I'm thinking of. Like I, my tire blew and the cop was helping me, but I have a warrant because I didn't vaccinate my cat.
Hmm.
I
which is
mean,
wild.
she gave
I
me
have
that whole
never heard
story.
that in my life. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, there's a lot of people who don't have registered pets and don't have a warrant. Like, you just get a fine. Like, they're like, pay your fine.
Yeah,
It's like $30.
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
not
Yeah.
from a country, but still, I've never heard of a warrant from
For
a
an
vaccinated
unvaccinated cat.
animal.
Well,
I
the
mean, that was
state they're in,
just,
especially, it's not like, yeah, they're in a state that it's like, I don't think they care about that. Like some states, maybe like I could see like California or New York or something be a little stricter, but like, Hawaii is, but they have reasons to be
Mhm.
where they are. No,
No.
I live in a southern state. No one cares. Like, no one
Yeah,
cares.
the vet cares because the vet's
Yeah,
like to get paid
yeah,
for this. Like, I want you
yeah.
to vaccinate your cat because then but otherwise, like, I'm pretty sure
Mm.
state's not going to hunt you down for it.
No.
Well,
No.
it was just another facet. So it was another message of like, well, I couldn't afford to vaccinate the cat, so I need help with that. I couldn't afford to fix my car and my tires, so I need help with that. I couldn't get out of jail and don't have the money for that. So there was 3 more options to add to the list of things that E could ask us money for.
But yeah, bleached my hair pink.
Yep.
Yeah.
Oh, oops, my hair is this
Accidental
gorgeous
toner,
color that I
but it was
accidentally
perfect.
did. Yeah.
No patchiness whatsoever. Come on.
Yep.
Yeah.
No.
And most of
No.
us have done some stupid hair stuff before. Let's be for real. Like, we've all bought like horrible box dye and done something dumb with it. It happens. But
Yeah.
it was a constant one, almost like one upping themselves to see what is the next crazy thing I can do or say to get
Yeah.
people to like believe it. And like sometimes we know weird stuff happens. You know, like I have weird stuff happen all the time, but like then I'm not asking people for money after.
Mm-mm.
You know, like I don't need money to help fix my hair. I'm an adult. I'm gonna go call my friend who's a hair person and be like, fix it.
Yeah.
We'll figure it out. You know, like I'm also, if you have a warrant for not getting your cat vaccinated and you knew that was a thing about having a cat, wouldn't you at least like call an attorney or something to figure something out? Like, wouldn't you take steps to fix something like that? I don't understand. Like, these are all things that adult people should. Google is free. Google how to fix
Yes.
it. You know,
Yeah.
most of us don't go begging people.
No, and ruining your children's credit is also
I swear.
something we can avoid, but
So
apparently.
that is something that I did when I heard about this. I did believe it because I used to work for CPS, for those of you who don't know. And one of the things I had was I had ongoing cases. So these are all proven cases of some type of abuse or neglect. And one of my jobs is all the foster kids, all the kids in a non family placement had to have their credit checked once a month because people would open lines of credit in their name. And I've also had a family member who's married into the family where one of his parents did that to him. And he didn't find out till he was an adult because, you know, teenagers aren't usually checking their credit. Why would you? And he did not find out till he was in his early 20s until he was going to like do certain things, you know, being an adult and finding that out. This actually happens all the time that parents will open credit in their children's names for all sorts of things, load up the credit thinking they're going to be like fix it before the kid's old enough for it to matter, but a lot of times they're gambling, they're shopaholics, drugs, things like that, and they're spending that money. And of course, they're not going to put it back because if you're doing that in the first place, you're probably not going to fix it. So when that started coming out, I was like, I believe it because they had Instagram accounts in these children's names, Facebook accounts in these children's names.
PayPal's in these children's names.
They opened PayPal. So, like, when all that was coming out and we saw the names, I'm like, of course they ruined the credit.
Yeah.
That actually was the thing that was the least weird to me because I had seen it in my job from people who like even claim to care for their children. And
Yeah.
we had the evidence of these PayPals, especially the PayPals,
Yeah.
because people were sending money and you could screenshot that. And we saw the names of these children on there.
Yeah.
I
That
think
is, ugh.
I think at first, before the credit piece, where they were trying to make their kids famous, like M's child had a special handle just like she did on all of these things so that everybody could Google and search, and they have the weird names. E's kid, one of the kids has a unique name, and I think they were trying to brand their children to be this next thing, money source for them. And in the meantime, that's when that credit situation came in with
I
M.
felt that really with M's child, the name.
Yeah.
It felt very targeted's not the right word.
It felt intentional.
It was
Intentional.
very intentional.
Yeah.
Well, in soapbox time, I am not a big fan of people posting their kids, especially on public accounts, with
Mhm.
the advent of AI and what we've seen with CSM stuff and all that. Like it is just not a good idea to post your kids that way and push them out as some type of commodity, because we're seeing some pretty horrible things with abuse. Obviously, we're not going to get into like the depths of that, but the way they were pushing it came across as that very like dance mom, like my kid is going to be famous because I never was. And we know that they tried to be famous so many times and they never quite hit that ground running. So what's the next step? Let's push our kids to be
Yeah.
famous, and then we're famous too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
By
And
proxy.
that's how that felt. It
Yeah.
really was.
And it's just another avenue to not get a quote real job.
Mm.
Yeah.
Like, oh, I'm going to work on my kids' socials because that'll be my money stream. So I don't need to go get a 9 to 5.
Mm-hmm. And it was an easier way to hide from us because we started watching their socials, and they could make a bunch of kid socials. And, if you attack a kid social, oh, well, you're the problem,
Yeah.
not them.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's just weird. I know the weirdest thing for me, and I know this isn't directly related to the two of them that we're speaking about, but it was the murder.
Yeah.
So it's so funny because I think I've mentioned this in a previous episode. One of my high school friends, he was watching Dateline or 2020, whichever this was, and the episode about that was on, and he was telling me about it. I'm like, so I know her. And he's like, what? And I start telling him the story, which I'll get to in a second. And he's like, hold on. I'm like, it's going to be in the podcast because he is a fan of the podcast. And he just was like, wait a second. I was like, that's actually now the third murder documentary, either episode or actual show, that I either know the people personally or am somewhat involved in. And I was like, it's weird. It's happened 3 times now because the newest one just came out.
Yeah.
And this was the first one. So, for those who don't know, we had a group member whose husband one night was missing, and she was in the group talking to all of us about he was missing. She couldn't find him. She was worried. He wasn't answering messages. They owned a reptile breeding business. That's where they bred them for pet stores and zoos and places like that. And he was later found later that night, I believe, where he had been shot inside this business's facility. And she was clearly upset. They had a couple of small children, and she was, I don't know what happened. This is horrible. They assumed some type of robbery situation at the time. So it was a couple years went by. Like, we gave her money, we donated clothing to her children, like
We believed the alibi.
we believed the alibi because she was messaging us at the time.
Yep.
And it was a couple years go by, and it turns out she'd been having an affair, and boyfriend is the one who shot him, and none of us knew. And because they broke up, he like turned her in,
Yep.
essentially. And obviously her best friend, I think, had still been in the group at the time, and like this all came out, and she left the group obviously because she was devastated. Like, she took them to Disneyland or Disney World or something like that after this happened to like cheer them up. Like, it was an insane thing to where I just remember the day someone told me, like, so she actually killed him.
Yep.
And I was like, wait, she was talking to us. And it was because she'd hired her affair partner, and it became an episode of, again, either 2020 or Dateline. If anyone wants to know the actual episode, let me know because I can pull
Yep.
it up and like pop it in one of our little things. But to me, that was the weirdest because I'm like, oh, okay.
I think an episode was done on, I think both 2020 and Dateline both
It
did it.
probably was.
Uh,
And it's a weird murder. It's a
it's
weird
such a
murder.
weirder, and it's even weirder to be considered an attempted alibi.
Yeah, like we were kind of part of her alibi because she can say,
Yeah.
I was online talking on Facebook to people, like I'm on
A
this group.
thousand people. Ask any one of them. I was
Yeah.
busy. I was online with them. I was
So we
busy.
were technically her alibi.
Yep.
And I remember the night that was happening. My ex-husband remembers it because he was like, "Oh no, that's awful." And then I was like, "Oh, he got shot." And he was like, "Oh my God." And then when that came up, he's like, "Wait, is that the same woman?" I was like, "Yeah,
Yep.
it was." And that to me is still the weirdest thing. It had nothing to do with any of the triplets, but
No.
that to me was just the weirdest thing because I was like, sure, add
Yeah.
it to all this other weirdness. Just throw a murder in there.
Yeah.
You're not a cult if a murder doesn't happen, apparently.
That's valid,
Fraud.
actually.
Yeah. Fraud check. Stealing check. Luring cats check. Oh, and alibi. Murder alibi check.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The only
But
thing we
not.
didn't have was any sexual harassment or like sexual impropriety allegations. That's the only thing that I think didn't happen in our cult. And I
Yep.
think it's mostly because we were. Oh wait.
Oh,
Oh
no.
wait, we have another box to check.
No!
This is great.
We, as you have said in previous episodes, the main group, and then there were thousands, it felt like, side groups.
Mhm.
There was a side group for more of the after dark flavor discussion
Okay.
topics.
Oh, yes.
There was.
And
Yeah.
at one point, there was a member that I didn't recognize because I think it was one of the cold medicine ads, and was in this group. Wasn't somebody that talked often, but added somebody that was male presenting, and this was supposed to be just our group, and they were from
That's
outside,
right.
and this guy was like taking.
Oh.
So it wasn't necessarily harassment or abuse, but who knows what he took from that. Like, it was very weird, and we
Yeah.
basically dissolved the group after that because it was just got too weird.
Yeah.
And for our
Right.
listeners, this was mostly for people who were born female, for trans women, for non-binary, but AFAB people. Like we were very much in there has to be an aspect of feminine to that, or at least understanding of the feminine. This was not meant for cis, straight, or gay males, at all. We
Or
did, I
people
believe
outside
we
the
had,
group. Like
yeah, that you
it
had to
wasn't
be in the
meant.
main group.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and so this person wasn't even part of anything.
Yeah.
This was the only thing they were added to, was this side group.
Which is really weird. I wasn't in that group, so like that's also, that was one of the main rules. You couldn't have been born male and stayed male.
Yeah.
Like if you had transitioned, that was totally fine. We were very open with anyone in the LGBTQ community in that sense, but part of why we had this group is because we were trying to avoid that male gaze situation where like you wear a band shirt. I'm wearing an Elton John shirt, you can't see it, but like you wear a band shirt and they like name your top 3 favorite songs as if you have to be quizzed, because that happened in a lot of fandom groups. Like Star Wars fans are horrible with that, and I say that as a Star Wars fan. But that was part of the purpose of these groups, was to give us that safe space. So like including someone from outside of the group, especially a male.
Yeah.
That wasn't vetted by anybody. Like,
Yeah.
it was just this secretive, icky situation.
So we hit on the edge of it. Maybe
Yeah.
not
We were
like
close.
fully sexual harassment, but we were close. So we can probably mark it off the bingo card at this point.
There you go.
It's full.
This
Yeah.
card's gone from 9x9 to 18x18.
Yeah. Jess, did you have a favorite or weird thing that was like the one that stood out the most to you?
I mean, there's the one, like, I was asked for a copy of my Canadian driver's license to take money out of a Canadian gambling website, and thankfully did not participate in that. I know of a side discussion of a potential of drug smuggling across the border. But again, I think in hindsight, all of that feels on par. unfortunately, which is an even worse sentence to say, that certain things became a norm and you were like, ha ha ha, that's so funny. And now you're like, what the? Um, so I think it's that hindsight being 2020, where there were a lot of weird things. You know, somebody had, to our knowledge, because of the source, well, I do have to take it with a grain of salt. Somebody had feces mailed to them, and like, some of this stuff, again, in hindsight, is completely insane and it's unbelievable and it's atrocious, really, at the end of the day. And it seems wild, but at the time you're like, haha, this is so fun or funny or whatever. Like, the other M lured, one of her cats was missing for a while, and she used KFC to lure it into her car, and that became a running joke because I think that went on for like a week, near, or over a week. Like,
It was
um
several days, yeah.
yeah. And I remember being like in college and paying attention to classes. Nah, thank you. I'd rather find out about this cat saga of luring it with KFC. And at the time it was comedic. It was hilarious. You were like, there's no way this is happening, but oh my gosh, it's so funny. And now you look back and you go, what the do you mean we were an alibi for a murder? What do you mean we watched a girl on live lure a cat with a drumstick? What do you mean somebody had feces mailed to their house? What do you mean that their children were not only used as a source of financial gain, but as effectively pawns for money laundering? Like, um, and it, and again, I think this boils down to the fact that at the time, because it had happened over such a long period of time, and because we felt like we knew these people, we participated in their big life events, they participated in ours. It was like almost considered a family of sorts. You chalk it up to, this is stuff that happens. We all have stuff in our own families and our own backgrounds that we sit back and you tell anybody else and they're like, that's weird, man. And you're like, yeah, well, it's just my family. And that's kind of what it felt like at the time, is, this is just a family. This is this is just the cult that I happen to be in. You didn't use that word, but nowadays you do, because that's exactly what it was. And we we were in it. And again, I think you don't know how dark the waters are until you get to clearer land.
Yeah. Well, and I think that's part of it too, is because again, when we're talking like the chicken thing happened, but it was like a year before the murder thing happened. These weren't like back to back. This was spread out. The feces thing was like way kind of in the early days of this starting to fall apart too. So like, when it spread out that much and you have something like almost 2,000 people in a group, you're going to have these things that happen and you're not going to necessarily process it as overwhelmingly weird at the time. It's going to be like, oh, that was a weird moment, and then you move on. And I think the only reason it started getting worse is the weird moments were happening back to back to back.
More
Like it started
frequently.
building up. It's, yeah, like we had the fraud emails, the waffles, the not getting products, the all these different things. Like these kinds of things were building to a point to where, like, the one that stood out to me towards the end is when I needed my custom cup that I had ordered like 6 months before. I kept asking, and she finally was like, "Well, my cat knocked over all the blanks."
Yeah.
All of them? Okay, you
Yeah,
can't
no.
go get more? Like, I'll send you a few more bucks. Like, and it was just the constant excuse. And to me, that was the excuse that I was like, okay, this is hitting too many times. Like, that was my little thing to start talking to people. And, like she'd ask for this money and different things like that. And um it was just, it started to, I think, open up, is that they got too comfortable and they started doing too much too quickly,
Yeah. Yeah.
is
The
what I think happened.
Yeah.
snowball effect.
Mm.
No, I agree. And I think that's why, I've made videos on this on TikTok about it as well, when we were kind of bringing attention to it. And some of the comments I get or got, I guess, would have been like, how did you let this happen? How were you so blind? Why did you even allow this? And it's because it was a slow burn. It wasn't all at once. It was, the beginning was us just becoming friends and sharing about our life. And like they brought us in and they told things about their life and very personal things, and we became sort of like best friends. And then we had the house cup tournaments, and that was very fun. And then we had the midnight mayhem stuff, and that was very fun. And none of that was any bit of an issue. Like, we made pins for the house cups, and those were paid for and they were sent out, and so we received those things. And when they would sell something or they would have something, we would buy it and we would get it. And so it was like there was never a question of whether or not we would get the stuff. It was just a very slow build, and then it's like things got introduced slowly. Like, there was, I think, a stalker at one point that she was like, oh, don't mess with the stalker, she's crazy. But it's like, looking back, she wasn't crazy, she was just trying to say what we all weren't seeing. And and then it eventually kind of branched out to E and M making their side groups with the waffles and the Starbucks cups and things. And I got by both of them, to be honest with you. I trusted both of them, and I was like, yeah, these are my friends, and they've always sent me the things, and there's never been a concern about me getting my products. So if they're a little bit slow, it is what it is. And then, just like, things happen, the dog and then the cat, and then her phone was stolen. It was a very slow burn over so many years, that when it finally got to the point where we were all questioning it, it was because they got greedy. And
Yeah.
they probably could have gotten away with it for many more years if they had just stayed slow with it, because we weren't questioning anything. But they got greedy. They started selling way too much, and they weren't making promises. Myself, I ended up buying things for my vow renewal from M, and I never saw them. My wedding day came and went, and I did not have those. And I was like, "Hey, what's going on?" She's like, "Well, I packed the box. I don't know what happened." And it was just kind of that snowball of when we finally started to question, like, hey, there's actually a lot happening all at once, that this is now not believable anymore. Like, the few things every once in a while was fine, but now you're making up all of these stories all at once. I got so many sob stories about not being able to pay their utilities, or their water is turned off, and one of them was fighting for custody for her, and it just became a lot. It became way too much to be believable.
And then
Yeah.
they had Joe's Crab Shack thrown in there.
Yeah.
Yep.
Like, I still don't even understand that story because I was getting bits and pieces, and I just like remember there was somebody in a Joe Crab Shack shirt. But
Yeah.
like, that was happening with all this, to where it's like, now you're just throwing in a story that makes zero sense.
Yeah. You're throwing stuff at the wall to hope something sticks, and
Yeah.
yeah.
So
I
like
still
that.
have like the
Yeah.
screenshots from that, and I was reading through that just recently. And it was, yeah, she was at Michael's and her phone was stolen. And so she went to the kiosk, it wasn't there. The police couldn't do anything because she had to file a report. And then she went back the next day, and the guy in the Joe's Crab Shack shirt was selling like 6 more phones. She's like, "Oh, well, he did it. He stole it." But then there was an error in the system with the kiosk. They couldn't unlock it, or like virtually, whatever. So she couldn't get her phone, but she couldn't get into her email because she didn't have her phone. So she couldn't send anything because she didn't know what anybody was owed. And it was a nightmare.
Yeah.
And then wasn't she using a phone to post to, like,
Yeah.
someone caught that because it used to say on Facebook, like, what you were posting from, like, iOS or
Yeah.
whatever.
Yeah. Mobile.
and somebody
Yeah.
caught that, and she tried to make an excuse it was a different phone that she was using. And everybody's like, you can't do like some sort of two-factor authentication to get into your email like most of us can do. Like, it'll ask for the backup email or the phone number or something. Like, there's other ways you can do that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And she wouldn't do that either. Like, it became this, to where we're all like, that doesn't make any sense.
Mm-hmm.
Also, how are you not using your email on your business laptop too,
Yeah.
that we claim you had, because she talked about having an Apple, like a MacBook or something.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And so
Well,
it's
she
just
was selling
that.
that too. Like, oh, I'm
Yeah.
selling my iPad, I'm selling my MacBook. And like, what? Where the fuck were those
Oh,
when you were supposed to do all this stuff for us?
yeah,
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
iPad Air that I won in the waffle that I
Yeah.
never received. Yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah. And that
That.
was
I was just
sold 3 over.
I was just looking back too, and I think like you guys definitely touched on this in a previous episode, and it's so obvious looking back. But like the part where I would, asking for money finally before I had talked to anybody else, and she's like, "Oh, don't worry, I'm headed to the warehouse. I'll look right now. You're at the top of my list." To see how many people had "you're at the top of my list" text blew my mind. And then I would say like, "Oh, thanks, E, I trust you so much. Like I totally believe you're trying to take care of this." And "Oh, thanks. That means so much." And
Yeah.
"You're such a great friend," and all this bullshit that like, and then coming out like, "We were never friends." Like, oh, that's convenient for you.
Mm-hmm.
It just makes me sick.
It's when she said that we were never friends, I think was the part that most people were so hurt by. Like if you'd come to us and been honest about your financial struggles and all these things, if you'd said, "Listen, this business is not going well, we are having a hard time, we're going to have to do all these things," like if you had been honest from the beginning, I think we would have all rallied and tried to help figure it out.
Oh God.
Instead, you used us and then tried to say we were never friends when you had people come to your wedding, when you had people sending you stuff. I have the hundreds of screenshots between me and E because we were really close and we talked all the time. And you're saying we weren't friends?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Like that's really strange to me. Like when I was doing the divorce stuff, like how you were really supportive. So how is that not a friend? I felt comfortable going to you and you talked to me for like a couple of days about it.
Yeah,
I don't understand.
I think that was a slap in the face, because at the end of the day, we all were very quick to rally around each other, regardless of what it was or what they were going through. I mean, again, like touched already, in the murder case, we still sent money. Like, so again, we were all pretty quick to jump and get in there and do what we needed to do to help each other. And then effectively get put in the head. I was never friends with you guys. We were only, huh?
I'm going to pause this a second. Kaylee, can you mute yourself? I think there's some
Mhm.
feedback. It keeps popping you up. Okay, yeah, it stopped it. Jess, you want to talk? You're talking again?
Yeah, sorry.
Okay, go ahead.
I think that that was a big problem because we were all quick to help each other, and instead to get punched in the face at the end of this with a "we were never friends," when we'd send money to each other. We would, the happiness boxes where when people were having a hard time, people would send them gifts, and like we were all really trying to make a community, and I think a community was made. And effectively to be told it was all based on a lie is a gut punch. And
Yeah.
I think it's atrocious, and I think it's absolutely rude, nasty, and quite frankly a dick move, because
Agreed.
what I mean, people showed up to your wedding, people showed up to help you move, people showed up to help you pack, people showed up to help you box stuff up, people showed up to to do whatever to make you successful, as they do in a community, and you want to burn it down. Be so for real.
Yeah.
And
that was
not
a
just
turning
the
point for
wedding
me
even.
too.
Go ahead.
Oh, just a sec, Ashley. You said people showed up to help box stuff. I offered over and over, "Hey, I'm only a few hours drive away. I'll come help you box this stuff up. I'm your friend. I will help you. I care about these people not getting their stuff." And the refusal made me realize they don't have shit. They didn't have anything. It was never even there.
Yep.
Yeah. I was gonna say, so it wasn't even, that we showed up, we rallied for them. It wasn't even the wedding. It was also, even after we had all kind of felt a little betrayed by E and M. E, I think it was, ended up having this elaborate birthday party. Amidst all of this owing people money, she had this elaborate birthday party, and still people showed up. And they went to celebrate her, and maybe some of it was hoping that they'd get the things they were owed, but it was like they went to be supportive, and they still got slapped in the face when they both. I think that was the hardest part, was this kind of shift in their demeanor, in the way that you know, everything was always, we're friends, we're close, I love you guys, let me share these deeply intimate personal details about my life with you, to go from that to then all of a sudden posting on Facebook being like, you guys have ruined this. We were never friends. How dare you ever consider that we were friends? And then be like, well, you can take me to court if you want, but you're not seeing your products and you're not seeing your money because I owe the IRS and child support before you. And it was just this really difficult thing to come to terms with because, I mean, I know we always say like we were in a cult, but it's like when you're in a cult, you don't know it. And it's like, we still joked about it even when we were in the midst of it. We were like, hashtag not a cult, you know, like we knew we were in a cult, we just wouldn't admit it. And they joked about it, they were laughing in our faces like, we have the one like we have the upper hand on you guys and you don't even see it. And I think that was just the hardest part of it all, was just this shift in the way that they spoke to us and that they didn't see us as friends, even though we were there. We were their biggest supporter. We were the loudest people. I brought so many people to the makeup company and I was like, go buy these. And I had so many people purchasing their cosmetics, and for just to kind of me to look like an idiot because all of this comes out. And now my friends are like, you sent me somewhere that is crappy.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I remember I bought a bunch of the makeup and stuff and I started sending it to my sisters. I have several sisters and some of them are really into makeup, like my sister Hannah is. And I sent them a ton of this makeup. And it was funny when all this started coming out because my sister's like, "Isn't that the company you sent me like a crap ton of makeup from?" I'm like, "Yep, it
Yep.
is." I've sent them like, at least a few palettes each, and like lipsticks and stuff. And she's like, "You wore that at your wedding?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I wore one of the lips at my wedding." And it was just, it's this thing where then you feel kind of dumb because you bought all this stuff and then you have to admit to everybody, like, so, like, this is a thing. And like my podcast, the podcast link is like pinned to my Facebook, and so anyone who first starts becoming my friend, they're like, "What is this?" And I have to be like, "So I was in a cult." And they, when they've met me, they're like,
What?
"Where?" And I'm like, "Just listen to it, it'll make sense, it'll make sense." But it's that whole, most, when you say that, most people assume you're like crazy, and then you start telling all these stories and you still feel crazy because it's so many things. And most people, we remember the more negative stuff in our lives a lot of the time. That's a human trait. So we remember these horrible situations that happened sometimes more than that the joy, because it got so overshadowed by it. Like most of us, half of our guests we've talked to said, like, every day you'd get off work, or like when you're on your break, you were checking your phone to see like what was going on, what's the topic of conversation today, like who did what, or you were excited to share your next awesome thing that happened, telling these stories, because that was our friend group. A lot of us didn't have a ton of in real life friends, and it was where you went to feel safe. And when you tell these stories, some of these are benign, like the cat with the chicken, sure. But sending feces to someone, that's not a benign story. That's severe harassment, like terroristic threatening, that is a
Yeah.
crime. So it's one of those things that you look at it and you're like, some of these stories are kind of silly, and then some of them are really hard and painful and illegal in so many ways. And I think, one of the questions we had for this episode is, what's the most terrifying part? And I think the most terrifying part is it made us numb to things that we shouldn't have been numb to. We
Yeah.
shouldn't have been numb to bullying. We shouldn't have been numb to harassment and fraud and being used. Like these things should have never been so glossed over that we didn't see it coming. We were conditioned to be okay with it by that buildup. And the only reason I think it got bad is because they did too much too soon, and our logical brains finally said, "Oh no," and
Yeah.
stepped in. Our grown, and also we have to remember we're aging up at the time.
Yeah.
So a lot of us started in this group in our like early to mid 20s, some even a little younger.
Yep.
And then your brain is developing more as you get older and you're having more life experience. So finally you're like, hold on, this sounds like fraud. You know, like
Right.
this sounds not okay. And you start to realize and understand and comprehend what's happening. And I think that's, these are the terrifying things is they took advantage of the fact a lot of us were lonely. A lot of us come from trauma based backgrounds. We're neurodivergent. We were young with not a ton of life experience yet in that realm of understanding this stuff. So we were a perfect target group
Yeah.
for these things to happen. And then we just aged out of it. A lot of us aged out of it.
Yeah. We were looking for community, and it turned out that community was a dumpster fire.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I
And we
think you
went through a
described
lot
my
of things.
story perfectly. So
Yeah.
me and Ashley keep going. Go, you go,
It's
Ashley.
okay. I was just gonna say we went through a lot of things together as a group, like a lot of
Yeah.
very deep things. You know, we obviously had the murder thing, which was wild, and we kind of rallied for her, and that ended up kind of being it bit us in the butt a little bit. But we lost a member. You know, we one of our members passed, and we all really were devastated by that. We were all very close, and
Mhm.
I do remember something a little bit about that was that, and I hope that it ended up being positive, but I do remember we all kind of pitched in to raise money in her honor. Well, we raised money for her family, but then we also raised money in her honor to send a Make-A-Wish kid to Disney. And I never actually saw anything about that. I don't know if that actually ever ended up coming to fruition. I hope it did. But I know that
I
we were
think. Go
sending
ahead.
a
Go ahead.
lot
I'm
of
trying
money.
to remember.
You're okay. I was like, I know we were sending a lot of money for that, and it just whenever we get like how the questions about how we didn't know, or it's like we were so close, and we went through so many deep personal things together. I shared my own personal things, like here's what I'm dealing with, here's the struggle I'm going through, and we all did that, and we all were there for each other.
Mm.
Yeah.
So, in regards to raising money for her, if I am remembering correctly, if any of our listeners remember this more accurately, please let me know, like message us. Um, I believe it was a non-triplet group member who was managing that, who is very respectable and honorable, and I believe she took care of it.
Okay.
If I'm remembering correctly, and she's somebody I would trust 100% with that if it is the person I'm thinking of, because they were super close. So if as long as she was the one handling, I know it was taken care of properly. I don't think it was a triplet who was
Yeah.
handling that,
Yeah.
if memory serves.
Yeah. If I
Yeah.
remember correctly, is
I know she
exactly
was
who I think.
handling the Make-A-Wish trip. But the
Yeah.
Yeah.
donations to her the member's family, I know E had her PayPal and Cash App linked there. So she was taking some donations,
Right.
but
Yeah.
it's
That
just
I know some of the families, so that would be easy for me to find out.
okay.
So,
But if a listener already knows the answer to that, please feel free to
Yeah.
message us and I can make a little short about it, like a follow up.
Mhm.
Um, because that was sudden too. That was not a it wasn't a something we could mentally prepare for. It wasn't like
Yeah.
a super long term
anything.
illness of any kind. So, and
Mhm.
again, keep in mind the age group we're talking here. These are a lot of younger women. Not that we didn't have women who were in their 30s, 40s, and on up, because we did. But the majority were in that more in that
20, 30.
yeah.
Mhm.
So that was definitely hard. I wasn't particularly close to her, but like knowing that it hurt people I was close to,
Mhm.
like especially these are people we talk to and saw all the time. A lot of people are
Right.
friends in real life, and I just had one of the members, Christina, who's been a guest on here, come visit me, and another member who I've known since, I met her in college. She's actually the one who got me into this in the first place. They had never met, so they got to meet at a little party I had, and we took pictures and everything. Like so people still see each other
Mhm.
and interact. Person, I'm going to another one's wedding here in May, and I'm staying at another member's house who lives by her, who they're in real life friends. So I'm going to be meeting a bunch of people that way. So it's, we still all are connected in a lot of ways. Some
Mhm.
people decided to fully back out, but a lot of these connections remain despite this just messed up stuff that it's hard to wrap your brain around when we talk about it.
Well, and I think that is personally one of the biggest takeaways is that one of my takeaways is that the community is still there despite them.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that it's really amazing that regardless of some of this, there's still people who are still in contact, and the ability that we've had to see each other in this community grow and and be there to be a witness to stuff that's gone on in people's lives. There's one girl, we were kind of close in the way back when, and to know and to still see her life and see it as it's progressed from back then and everything that she's gone through, and to see her now, and she's such a happy and thriving individual compared to where she was when I met her. And it's one of those things that you're proud of that person. And we don't really talk or anything like that, but I'm just extremely proud of the person that I've been lucky enough to see her. And like, I can say that significantly about a lot of people who have been and who were in the group is exactly that. We were privileged enough to find each other in this community, and we've been privileged enough to see each other grow. And a lot of it was through hard times.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of us went through some pretty dark stuff or stuff that was not so awesome. But a lot of people came out on the other end of it.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that there's a lot of pride, not only being that, but being able to be a witness to that and see the success that people have had and the lives that they've managed to grow into. And I think that at the end of the day, for me, is one of the biggest and most impressive takeaways, is that we've been lucky enough to see the individuals in our community grow and thrive regardless of this shit.
Mm-hmm.
And that's pretty cool. And that's
Yeah.
my takeaway from this whole thing.
Which I love that, because that's, I think, a beautiful sentiment.
Yeah.
I would say, like, you were describing basically my story. So I joined the group the group occurred right when I had a big move to a city where I knew nobody except for my husband. I had a huge career change trajectory that was massive, and I had nobody. And so this was the group for me, and these were my people. And we went through a lot of hard times. I had a massive surgery and complications, and was close to death from this surgery. And it was ultimately to try and correct infertility issues. And in that time, that's when the PayPal scam hit me. I was in the ER when she sent that to me. And I still was trying to support her, even though I'm steeped in medical bills. And so then I'm thinking, like, okay, I see this. I see her on and off again with her new boyfriend, and oh, oopsies, I'm pregnant now. And that just destroys me, because that's my whole thing, was I was trying to get pregnant, and she just took this money. And as I continue to reflect, just like Persephone said, as we age and see it for what it is, my final takeaway was, I am still a good person. I still trust people. I'm a little bit more hesitant now to believe everything. I don't put myself out online as much. That could be an age thing as well. But I still have good in me, and I will still give to those that need it if I can. So yeah, sorry, it's emotional, but
No.
it was a really important time for me. And you're right, I still see these people thriving, and I'm one of them. And so it's just, I'm glad we have the community despite what happened.
Yep. Yeah, I think
actually
for
do have.
me, yeah, I think for me, I think is, I agree with a lot of what you guys are saying. And it just, yeah, the biggest thing for me is that we are still good people, like you said, and we are still close in spite of them. They did make me a little less trusting. I've always been very trusting, very helpful. I would give you the shirt off my back if you needed it. And so it does make me a little bit more of a skeptic, which I don't like. I don't like that part of myself now. But it's like I have these incredible friendships that are never going to go away. If anything, we're bonded tighter now because of what we endured with them. And I again, I also had gone through a move recently. We moved overseas, and I didn't know anybody, and this was kind of my outlet. These were my people, and I grew to trust a lot of them. Unfortunately, some of the wrong ones. Um, but I have so many amazing people now in my life who, anytime I post anything, like, "Hey, my kids are doing this fundraiser at school," or my when we moved from overseas, we were having a difficult time with all of the costs of being military. It was a lot of money for an overseas move with three pets and two kids, and I was pregnant. And one of the members that I'm still very, very close with, she's like, "Let me buy your car seat for your new baby that's coming." And like, that was just the biggest weight, and they donated to, like, kind of help with the dogs, bringing them over. And anytime any of them have ever posted anything, I'm the first one to throw money at it. And it's like, I love that I have those people, and I love that I have that ability still to help, even in spite of everything that we went through. I am a little bit more skeptical now of other people outside of this tight knit community that I have. But it's like, we are still good people, and they tried to ruin us, and they didn't. And we have this incredible thing that is kind of flourishing from the death of something ugly. And I'm I wish that we hadn't had to go through it. I wish that things could have been different, obviously, but I'm grateful for what I have from it.
Hmm.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that one of my favorite quotes is that you don't love because you love despite, and because, you love because of whatever reasons, but when you truly learn to love, it's despite something that might drive you nuts. And I think that one of the biggest takeaways from this is that despite what they did, there is still a community there. And
Hmm.
I think that's massive. And I'm personally very, very proud that I know so many strong individuals who overcame not only the bullshit that was going on there, but within their own lives, and were able to thrive regardless.
Yeah. And I think that that's my biggest takeaway is how brave pretty much everybody is. Whether you made the choice to leave the community altogether to protect your mental health, which is very understandable. Whether you decided to be vocal on TikTok when this first happened, because a lot of us were. Whether you stayed in some of the groups that still exist, because there are a couple of the side groups or smaller groups that we kind of kept, and or whether you decided to be on this or to message us or to be a part of it, I think just shows how they didn't kill as much of our spirit as they thought.
Yeah.
And that we are brave enough to speak out. And even though our goal with this podcast wasn't necessarily to put the spotlight on them, because a lot of our TikToks honestly did that back then, you can still go and find them for sure. This was more about how do we prevent this from happening again? How do we heal from this to move forward? Not move on, move forward.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And how do we educate people to see the red flags that we were missing?
Yeah.
And especially with how we know internet and social media have just become so inundated with similar types of groups, whether it's political, religious, non any of those things, because ours wasn't either of those. But this happens to so many people because we're searching for community, and that's what a lot of cults are really about, is looking for the people who are looking for community and they fill some sort of void,
Mhm.
Yeah.
and they attract you for whatever that reason is, and then you are stuck, then you are slow boiled, you don't see it. Brainwashing is a thing. It's not all the CIA movie stuff make it out to be. It can be something as simple as what happened to us. It is a type of grooming, and people throw that word around a lot, but it's what happens. They test you, they see how it's going to be, and then when they finally can, they push through to the very end, and that's when these things typically fall apart if they should. And that was our main goal, is how do we help people see what's going on? How do we heal ourselves and prevent it? Because if you're a survivor of any type of trauma, I think most of us don't want to see anyone else go through what we've been through,
Yeah.
whatever that trauma is. And if we can use our voice in a way that helps people heal, because I get messages from people all the time in the various platforms that are like, I wouldn't be a guest, but thank you for saying this because this is what happened to me.
Mm-hmm.
And if they can get that off their chest and feel validated, sure. If that helps them in any way, shape, or form, then we've done our job.
Yeah.
We don't need to be the biggest podcast in the world. We just need to help whoever. If we help one person who's in a cult and they're able to get a few people out, that ripple effect is legitimate. They'll help someone else who will help someone else, and that's the best you can hope for with this, what we're doing here. So that's my biggest takeaway, is that everybody is brave
Yeah.
and survived it
Mm-hmm.
in their own way, whatever they needed to do. And even if it's made you a little less trusting, sometimes that's not necessarily a bad thing.
Yeah.
Not in this world. I think having more discernment is kind of a good thing, and not saying you shouldn't trust at all, but we shouldn't trust so easy that we're getting into MLMs and all these other really horrible things, and following down these paths. The world would be better if there were more leaders. And sometimes being a leader doesn't mean you're the head of a group. It just means, I'm not going to do that because that is shady.
Yeah.
That sound, I'm not gonna sell Unique or Pampered Chef. Listen, I did Mary Kay back in college, so I'm in that group and I'm making fun of myself. Okay, but it's
I've been there.
yeah, we've all done it. It's so common.
Mm-hmm.
But not following these things, like not allowing us to be drawn into that, is it's a skill. I think I've talked to some former group members who are like, I think this is why influencer culture doesn't affect me, because now I don't want to buy any of it, because what if it's crap? And I'm like,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yep.
it's true. It's like, that kind of stuff, it makes you more aware. And you know especially when again, the topic today is the more freaky stuff, but a lot of the stuff was very normal.
Mm-hmm.
Very normal life stuff. People having children, people having parents die, people getting promotions at work, people going to school, graduating, normal life stuff. And these other things were just mixed in there until the very end, and then
Yeah.
that's all it
Mm-hmm.
was that.
Yeah, I think
Yeah.
the majority of the freaky stuff, I guess, happened at the end, and so it was a building of a community, and then everything kind of imploded at the end. And it wasn't until after we started questioning, I think someone maybe posted in the dumpster fire group that was, hey, this is what's happening to me. Is this happening to anybody else? And that was when everybody realized, yeah, it is actually. What?
Mhm.
Because it was all so secretive.
Yeah.
It was all like private messages. Nobody was public about it. And so that's when everything got scary, was at the end, when their demeanor changed, the way that they spoke to us changed. When we learned things that we weren't aware of, like the PayPal scam, or the fact that they were
Mhm.
using one of them was using the cosmetic account in secret to pay her bills because she was past due. Like, we didn't know about all of that until the end. So it wasn't scary until it was. And then it was like, at that point, our eyes were open and we're like, okay, bye. Like, how do we fix this now? So at that point, we were already so deep
Yeah.
in, like, what do we do? It wasn't scary till you were so far in that you're like, how do I get out of
Yeah.
this?
Yeah.
I
And
think
and that's
that's the
half the
brave
point. Yeah.
That's the brave point or the braveness that I see, is I think of Jess and Persephone and those of you that started that extra group, because you're right, Ashley. I was in private messages asking E for my money back, and I
Mm-hmm.
posted on the main group, E owes me this much money. And immediately it was deleted. And then I was muted by her. And she said, I can't deal with you posting publicly right now. So you're done. And so it was that silencing of the individuals that that was so difficult to gather everything, and then finally creating a separate space away from them where we could truly say this happened to me, I think was a big moment for me. And then like knowing we're not going to get our money back ever, but having the ability to talk about it and reflect and see the goodness come out of it is a big closure point for me. The moving forward that Persephone talks about is like this, the willingness of you guys to do this, not just for the broader community, because it is important. I mean, she has a new following. She has a new cult. I've seen it. People kicking people out because they speak against her. It's she just has a new group now. So not only for the broader community to try and recognize that, but for us, this was big. And I really appreciate that you did that for us.
And I think that was a big piece of it is I don't it started standing out to me personally with some of the language she started to use, and she was getting pushier and pushier with me, and I was going through a divorce and I was not nice at the time to like anybody. So there is a joke that I have. I actually have a pin on my bag that is Skeletor and it says I am not nice, and I will send I took like a picture of it and made it into a sticker on my iPhone, and so like when I'm just like I'm not nice and I'll just send it to you when I need to like set boundaries. And I was really learning at the time to set my boundaries, and it was just the pushiness of needing this money and all this, and I'm like, I'm going through a divorce. Why are you doing this when you know I cannot do that right now? Like, I just asked you to post for a retainer. Like I was going to start like selling items and doing whatever I had to do. And you're doing this. And now knowing she has another cult, I'm going to say this, fuck her.
Yeah.
Fuck her. And I hope some of these members see this stuff and they may or may not believe it. I kind of don't care. You all need to understand, for any of those who might see this, she will screw you over. And we have receipts. It would take you probably 3 weeks to go through the amount of receipts I have personally that people have either sent me or they're mine. And then you add on top all the ones I don't have, probably a year, because there are screenshots, video recordings, PayPal back and forth, like all these different things. We have so much from thousands of people. You are going to get so hurt. And if E ever hears this, fuck you. Because you hurt so many people who didn't deserve it. Like, I was able to handle it, but so many people really struggled with that because they were either closer to her or their trauma was different. I have my trauma is fine where I can let people go and I'm just like, fine, my hands are washed of you. My astrological chart very much says when you're done with somebody, you're done. And I just, they don't affect me anymore in that way. But knowing she's actively trying to hurt another group of people, I hope she steps on a Lego every day for the rest of her life. Like, that's the kind of the vibe we're going to put out there. Because that is so wrong. It's so wrong. And like, I know she's been reselling, like a couple of people have sent me videos and screenshots of her on reselling groups. And when they've tried to report her, those groups like block them. Even though like, we're just like, hey, I was like, start sending them the link to the podcast if you want, send some of the TikTok videos, because a lot of us named them in the TikTok videos. I know I did in mine, but it's one of those things where they will always continue to try to hurt people. I don't think they have it in them to be normal members of society and take care of their own business.
Nope.
I don't think they know how. I think they were babied by their mother, who is equally as guilty, because people reported this crap to her anytime it happened, and she would just be like, "Oh, I can't do anything about it.
Yeah.
I've seen the messages." She wrote it off, and they were completely enabled to do this, and did many illegal things. They've hurt many people, and they will continue to do that They're going to continue to hurt their children, and they're gross.
Yep.
They're just gross people. And there are just gross people in the world, and it sucks because most of the rest of us weren't that.
Mm-hmm.
You know? So, yeah,
Yeah.
if she ever hears
Politely
it, fuck
go
you.
fuck.
Agreed. Agreed.
Not even
Yes.
politely. Like,
Agreed.
Yeah.
go sit on a cactus. Like, that's...
Yeah.
There's just nothing nice I can say, because even any good thing she did for me is so overwhelmed by the fact that
Yeah.
she's still hurting
Well, and I mean,
people.
Mm-hmm.
She didn't learn anything.
becomes
No.
irrelevant.
Well, and
Yeah.
thinking about this, like as I reflect on this, I had people, randos, reach out to me from other groups that she was scamming and doing the same bullshit prior to us. So we weren't her first, and
Mm-mm.
certainly aren't her last. So it kind of put it into perspective of like, oh, this is her. She's been doing this for a long time, and we just happen to be the next target.
Yeah. And I think that's going to be, until they face some sort of major legal consequence, like they hurt the one wrong person, I think this is just their baseline, unfortunately. I think it is entirely their baseline, and it's unfortunate. It's very unfortunate. But there are those people in the world, like how many movies about con men who are like real life stories exist? They're in that same category. Some people just get away with it until they do something so bad that it cannot be ignored anymore. And I know one of the episodes this season will be about why we didn't do a lawsuit and why the legal process kind of failed us, because that is a longer story that will take a whole episode to get into, because there are many reasons why we could not do that, even though we explored hundreds of options. I feel like we had people looking at everything which way, but like ultimately sometimes people don't get punished, and that's why moving forward is so important, because unfortunately we don't always get the justice or vengeance we want, unfortunately. And so, that being said, I think it's important to remember for all of us that we were brave and that we made it out. Maybe a few $100s or more broker, but we gave out of the kindness of our own hearts, and that does not make us bad or stupid. I gave it because she said she needed it for her kids, and I will never feel bad thinking I'm giving to help a child.
Right.
Period. So, if you feel bad about that, please don't. We all did it because we cared. We didn't do it because we were dumb. Yeah. All right. Well, any final comments or thoughts before we wrap up today's episode?
I just want to thank you guys again for doing this, and the constant reiteration that we weren't dumb. We weren't, we are smart, intelligent, good people. And that's something that I have to mantra myself when I get into that spiral, because it does feel that way when outsiders listen. They're like, how did you let this happen? You have your master's, you work with students, you love watching cult documentaries. Why would you not know? And so I think it's really nice to hear that and remember that it can happen to anybody, and it was over time, and it doesn't make you less of a person.
Yeah.
Agreed. And thank you. Yeah, again, kind of just reiterating what Kaylee said, is just thank you guys for continuing to be the voice for people who either don't have one or don't necessarily want to be involved in that way. Like, you guys are putting the message out. You guys are allowing this story to be shared in whatever regard it may be. So I think that's really important, that we keep speaking out. Even if we're not getting anything from it, we're at least going to help heal some of the people that went through it, or help other people avoid going through the same situation we went through. So thank you guys so much.
Yeah.
You're welcome. Happy
And
to
thank
do it.
you, Lily and Ashley, for coming, sharing your story. Really know that you're not dumb, any of that stuff. We were, again, you're part of a community, and it's what you do good person within your community. And if anybody else is struggling with that out there, please know that it's not your fault. Being treated like shit is a reflection of that person. It's not on you. At the end of the day,
Mhm.
you can't fix stupid.
Yeah,
Apparently, they're just
it's
fucking stupid. Um, uh, so again, thank everybody, not only who listens, but who's willing and able to share your story. And again, you're a lesser person for not and for doing what you need to do to take care of yourself. Uh, if anybody needs anything, do reach out. We're here. We get it. We-
Mhm. The DMs are always open for us. So Insta, all that, message us. That's what we're here for.
exactly.
Mhm.
Yeah. Well, thank you both, Ashley and Kaylee, for coming on. And thanks always to my co host, Jess, for being here and being awesome. Um, we will be having a more like not strict, but formal recording schedule. Like I said, we'll have some more short content. So please keep an eye out on all the socials. If you have any thoughts or stories you would like to be shared, even if you don't want to be the one to share them, please send it in because I'm more than happy to make a video about that information or to include it on one of our episodes. So please keep sharing, commenting, all that good stuff. We want this to be a community thing and
Yeah,
not just an us
exactly.
thing. So thanks everybody. I hope everyone has a great week. Keep an eye out on all the stuff, and we will talk to you all
Thank
soon.
you.
Thanks everyone.
Bye.